It's almost a whole row of only 50. I would say something. So, anyway, now can you make sure that you are sitting in no less than group of 4, okay, with mixed gender. It can be up to 6, so 4 to 6 people that you don't know mixed gender. Okay, are you comfortable now? Hello, everybody, are you comfortable? Yes? So the boss is back. Hello. My name is Tina, and I became a lot bossier about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, because I finally walked my ceremony for my PhD, so you can call me doctor today. You see me? Yeah, thank you for clapping. Do you know when I started it? Yeah, my husband just showed me that we have an old file and it says 2004 PhD topics. I officially registered in 2008 after searching for mentors for 2 years. And I finished in 2017. I got it in Croatia, so they make you wait a year to tell you, yes, you really did pass. So anyway, I'm not going to talk about my PhD today at all. And this is one of my favorite classes I teach now. It's called Applied Creativity and Innovation. The number one thing you need to remember from this picture are bubbles. Yeah, it's very profound, isn't it? Yeah, this is the way some people tell me I give directions. Lots of bubbles. I see you talking and bubbles are coming out of your mouth. So anyway, I wanted to talk to you about dots and lines today. So you will see that there's transitions in my slides where things, you're not sure what they are, but then they eventually become clear. So that's exactly what happens in experimentation. So now you're going to do the experiment finally. You're going to go underneath your chairs. Please do not take the scissors. Just take your markers. Everybody should have a marker. And you should have 5 Post-it notes. You only need 3 unless you're that type of person. Yes. And you know exactly who I'm talking about, yes? So you need 3. So we're going to give you very simple instructions. You may stain your clothing, so if you're wearing something white, be careful, because I'm not paying for it. All right. So the first Post-it note, you can open your markers, just so I'm very specific now. Open your markers. Are you ready? I see you're so excited. So you are going to draw some of my favorite shapes right now, okay? And you're going to do at least 12 of them. And before I tell you what they are, sometimes they're close together and sometimes they're far apart, right? Sometimes they're big and sometimes they're small. But you can still hear me. Okay, back to normal. So I want you to draw dots, 12 of them, as quickly as possible. Any random shape, please do not try to make a creature. Do not. Do not try to be cute. Just random dots. 12 of them at least. Big, small, close, far. Go. eye contact. Tina, I have done the assignment. Bravo. Bravo, I'm very proud of you. Okay, next page. Next page. You are going to get a new thing to do with your hand. It's not a dot. It's a dot that goes for a walk. These things are called lines. So you get to do lines. Thick lines, thin lines, close lines, perpendicular lines, curvy lines, random lines. Please go.
How many?
How many?
Freedom of choice this time. You see how I relax my commander mode to give you some freedom? Your brain is very happy right now. I see the photographers and the videographers are taking beautiful shots. I love hands. Hands and little tiny post-it notes. Those are my favorite shots. Okay, anyway, now we're ready for number 3. And this is your last one for about 30 minutes. Yeah, because then I have to talk a little bit, okay? So, ready? Can you guess what is going to be on this post-it? I think you have all the information you need. Do you have a guess? I'm not disappointed. All right, so it's a combination of dots and lines. Yeah, making nothing in particular. Very random. Okay, please join people you don't know. And make sure you're with people of different gender. Girl, girl, girl. Okay, the boy moved in the middle. Okay. But I bet you just ate breakfast together, right? Yes? Please go join other people. You just ate together? Yes. It will not be any fun if you don't, go to somebody else now. They're just looking closer to each other in different chairs. You are wanted elsewhere. Yes? One of you lovely ladies, there's an empty seat right here, but don't feel uncomfortable at all. But the keynote is saying something directly to you. Okay, so, all right, are we ready? So, now you have to have very good patience. You have to flip over the post-it note, the last one, and just sign your names so that they don't get confused later on. Stack them all back together, and then put your name on the back of that stack so that you know that that's your stack. And then you can put it underneath your chair. And then we're going to play with that in the last, 8 minutes of the keynote. And we're going to do something really special with it, okay? So those of you who weren't here, it's really simple. First dots, then lines, then dots and lines, just to fill in the gap. Are we ready? Yeah? Are you still comfortable? And is Goran in the room? Yeah? How's my timing? Did that take like 12 minutes? 14, okay. Here we go. So now I'll give a little bit more of my background. And this is the exercise that you are going to do. First start with the dots, and then lines emerge. But when we're experimenting, we're always either marking the line, saying that's as far as we can go, or jumping over the line, or messing about with the line. So now I will tell you, how did I start experimenting? So you see dots right here, and these dots represent the question I get asked the most. Why do you look like that? Really, I do. I get that question. This is the reason I look the way I look. These are my parents. They were married in 1964 in Oakland, California. And this is their genetic makeup. So I was born a genetic experiment, my Filipino mother left the Philippines because she wanted to go find a curly-haired man because she wanted a daughter with curly hair. If you didn't notice, she got her genetically selected child. She got 3 of them, but let me give you a breakdown. So, because other people are experimenting so much with facial recognition, they're also doing a lot of morphing, as you probably are even doing research in. So I was able to find composite photos of all the nationalities that I know of that make up my DNA. So you have my mother's side, which is Filipino and German. These are the most strongest components. I should have let you guess. In my lifetime of 49 years, only one person was able to guess 2 really spot-on nationalities in my heritage, because everybody guesses, Latin American or something like that, and it's not there, I'm telling you right now. So, and it was a cab driver in Washington, D.C. He's like, "You're Filipino and Belarusian." I'm like, "What?" He sees a lot of people. Okay, so then there's also, on my mother's side, Japanese, Chinese, and Spanish. She would like to tell you in the 1960s and 70s, if you asked her nationality, she would tell you Swedish. Yes, because at the time, only Barbies were what everybody was trying to look at. So she's like, "And what are you looking at? I'm Swedish." But she wasn't, and that shows her attitude. This is my dad on the other side, Jack, and his makeup. I bet you can't guess those, can you? One is Belarusian, or Russian, Polish, and Israeli, Ashkenazi to be exact. So when you mix them all up together, hey, voila! And where is the girl? She's later on in the show. She gets, when I add a little Croatian DNA to the mix. Yes. So this is that I'm physically born an experiment, really and truly, and nobody can guess the ingredients that went into it, so I've spelled it out for you here. So it wasn't like really very normal for me to kind of see other people that looked like me. And then in 1993, Time magazine put this on the cover. And I was like, wow, I finally see somebody. And I figured out who I was. I'm the future. Yeah? When all the nations meld together, these are the kind of people that we're going to get. And it scares some people, but it's the reality. And this was 1993. So we are all experiments. We experiment. And we are experimented on, whether we like it or not. So you were my experiment so far this morning. Thank you very much. I have your permission now? Thank you. Josie said you were positive, so I feel so happy. Okay, so let's see what emerges. This is a pharmacy. No, I'm not on drugs. But the year I was born, in 1968, my father opened a family pharmacy. It doesn't exist anymore. It lasted from the time I was 0 to 25 years old. And this is something that shaped the way I experiment, because I constantly had to watch his entrepreneurial successes and entrepreneurial failures. And I was on the roller coaster ride with him, much more than I think people realize, that children are not just they have money or they don't have money. They're actually very much engaged in what their parents' professions are. So that's one of the things that shaped me in my experimentation, which you'll see a little bit later. A little bit with drugs too, sorry. So this is what happened next. My parents broke up. So what happens when there's a divorce? I was 8 years old. Don't worry, I'm not gonna make you cry. All right, and what happened was, they decided to figure out who they were, because they weren't happy together. So one of them went towards self-actualization, and the other one went to love. So my mother, and this is me 8 years old, so you have to understand, from 8 growing up forward, I had to experience all my mother's different love interests. Luckily, they didn't do anything bad to me. There's none of those stories here today. But 5. She She was married 5 times.
Wow.
And I'm being kind because there were 2 common law marriages if you're counting. So there were probably about 7. She just believes in experimenting with love. What can I tell you? My father then went on a self-actualization journey and took me with him. So you see a ratio here of 10 to 1. I experienced from the age of 8 to 13, 10 different religions. He got kicked out of Scientology. That's all I have to say. But then it made me, at the age of 13, find Jesus, which may make some of you in here uncomfortable. Too bad. I felt that it was something that I had to do, so I went with the neighbor and became a born-again Christian at 13. I think back, wow, that's pretty cool. And some of you are looking very perplexed, but I will explain. Because you know what happens at 13? Puberty. Thank you for a little. Who said puberty? Okay. Okay. So can anybody tell me what this hashtag stands for? I heard you don't tweet a lot. Do you know what this hashtag stands for? Anybody? You don't want to guess? Yes, somebody said it. Oh yeah, I'm gonna let you say it loud and proud, girl.
Okay.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Oh my God, she's blushing as she says this. Well, if you want to say that. But I'm not going to tell you really any of those stories at all. Okay? So you have to get me drunk for me to share those stories, and I don't get drunk. So my daughter's really blushing now. So everybody from 13 and forward, and some people never stop, experiment with sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Everybody but my daughter, Josephine. Okay, so then there are the college years, and you start living life, not more experimenting with other people and the way they want you to be, but you start experimenting a little bit with who you want to be and what are your boundaries and how you want to define yourself and how you want to see yourself. So I was a cheerleader because the only way I could get out of my father's grip, and I love him dearly, I talk to him every week, but he's a good, better, best. I never let it rest till my good is better and my better is best. That's exhausting. Yes, it's exhausting. So the only way I could get away from my dad was to show I was doing something productive. So I had to always have a hobby or a sport or a job and say, I'm going to do this. So my level of productivity, even when I'm sitting quietly, is dizzying because I have that mantra in my head. So I could let loose a little bit here, but I had to find myself a little bit more. So I think we experiment as we search to fill our needs, like those Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We experiment at different levels with different motivations, and we experiment with crossing boundaries and ages. So then it brings me to Croatia. So after I was in college, I went for hotel resort management, and then I worked some big sporting events. And when I was at the big sporting events, I said, I'm not going to be treated like shit anymore. I want to be a sports person, sports management. So I ended up working for World University Games and Major League Baseball International. And yes, these are very cool jobs, but I'm not going to tell you anything about them. And then I'm going to fast forward to after going to graduate school. I decided that I was getting too old. So I went to Taiwan, kind of as my search, and I lived abroad for a year, and I did tons of experimenting there, and I worked for a TV station. And then I came back to the US, and my college said, we're starting a school in Croatia. Would you like to go? And I said, no. I'm waiting for my dream job. And I had interviewed in 5 different cities for the same sports marketing company. They were waiting for the right gig to put me on because I had so many skills, they just didn't know where they wanted to use me. So I end up and in Chicago doing some temp work, and I'm like, what am I doing here? And I ran into one of my professors, and he's like, Tina, you can go to a new place and do marketing. Why don't you do it for us in Croatia? I'm like, those photoshopped pictures that the dean has above his office, and little did I know that those were not photoshopped. That's really what Croatia looked like. And I'm like, okay. So my boyfriend from college had gotten a girl pregnant while I was in Taiwan and broke my heart. Yeah, I knew you wanted to hear a little bit of that. And so I decided, okay, I was in Asia, now I'll go to Europe. So when I land in, there's a big story, but I'm not going to tell you. When I land in Croatia, and I'm here for 2 weeks, I end up in the Crows building. This is not a joke. Where Crows is now, which is was Atlas Travel, they were our partner to try and do recruiting. So I'm in charge. They tell me, Tina, you can come to Croatia. And after I signed the contract, they told me, if you don't get 80 students by September, the school won't open. And it's your fault, right? So I say, okay, I'm game. So I came, and I looked at the map of Croatia, didn't know anything about war. Can you believe it? 1997, I didn't know anything because I was a cheerleader and I was in Taiwan. These are my excuses. Okay, anyway, so little did I know what would come my way. Anyway, so I get out a map of Croatia and I say, okay, these are the big cities. We're gonna go to Zagreb, Rijeka, Dubrovnik, and Split. I'm gonna go to Zagreb because I'm the commander, and this is where the most students will come to, and we tested a whole bunch of students. The last student of the day was this boy. He looked 12 years old, and he looked at me like a wolf. Vuk, for everybody who's Croatian, wolf. And he's sitting across from me, and he's looking at me like, I'm gonna conquer the world and you first. And I'm like, whoa. I have dated professional athletes before. Calm down, little boy. But he's the one who got the last laugh because that's my husband. We're married 20 years. I skipped a few steps, but those are juicy tidbits and my daughter's in the room. Okay, so this is Ivan Zec, and that is me. I don't know if I look like that anymore. But that is 1998, and in the meantime, we had 7 positive pregnancies, but resulting in only 2 pregnancies. So we experimented a lot. We had to have a lot of sex to try for all those babies. Sorry, Josie. No, that's it. I just had to go for the laugh, Josie. Sorry. Okay. So, but the thing is, now you get to know the experiments that I did to produce this magnificent child. Can you stand up? See, I torture her like my dad tortured me, but she'll have fun later. So, anyway, imagine how much, if you knew, see how many pregnancies I had, that when I had them, I really wanted to let everybody know that I was pregnant. So by the time I was 4 months pregnant with Josie, I looked 8 months pregnant. I was huge. I was just overeating, but I wanted everybody to know I was pregnant. So as soon as I knew the gender, I would walk into a room and I would make my colleagues, they would say, hi Tina. I said, no. Hi Tina, hi Josie. Say hello to Josie. I was really crazy. Anyway, so every night I would sing her a song, and she told me I can't sing it in front of you. It's super embarrassing to her. So, anyway, I was singing to her every night, and I was listening to Mozart for mommies and daddies. I can't stop doing this, I'm sorry. And what happened was that this beautiful child materialized, and I have the other one in the oven there, so you can see me pregnant. And this is what happened. So, since Josie could talk, she was singing, and you can see the first little picture of her. I took her to an event and she grabbed the mic and started singing in the purple dress on the top. Then I did a little experiment. I thought that she would be the best violinist in the world if I gave her a righty violin and she's a lefty. That failed. She hated the violin and we hated listening to her. But she went into full vocal voice and she started working with Zvezdica, and then she performed on TV. And right before she performed with Ivanka Bokovitz, is that it? Yeah. It sounded awful. It really sounded awful. And I was, oh my gosh, my child, she's going to be on national television. She's in front of Simona, in front of everybody for the Christmas. Is she ready for it? And that girl, when there was the crowd, she got nerves of steel. She went out there in her little white dress next to this giant legend of Croatian singing and held her own. She sang second voice soprano, which was really difficult, and she nailed it. Can we have a round of applause? So, experimenting with a child in the ballet, telling her stories, telling her that she's going to be a great singer, and rubbing your belly constantly. It works. So she's been in a whole bunch of different things, and this is her most recent showstopper. She performed with one of the two cellos, Stephen Hauser, and she sang a duet with his cello, which was very cool and hard to do. So they melded together, so that's it. Thanks, Josie. It's over now. So the last round here is that we experiment with inputs, processes, and outputs. And you heard a few of my inputs, my processes, and that output. But now we'll go into my teaching. So this is one of the examples of my teaching. So this is actually the class, the last day of class in Marin Držić Theater. So I said, what if we have a destination marketing course and we really try to attract new residents to Dubrovnik and new businesses to Dubrovnik and new investors in Dubrovnik? What would it look like if we didn't have a book? So I made them use their 250 kunas that they would use for a book in 2003. That's still a lot of money, right? And pay a video studio each in teams of 4, so that's 1,000 kunas. I ended up on the cover of a Dubrovnik newspaper as a horrible teacher. How dare she take a bribe? She's getting a kickback from paying the videographer with all her students' money, which is not acceptable. When you do something that people are not expecting, you can get a real big backlash. But in the end, this is what the end award ceremony is. We got people voting on each of the films the students made, and one of the top films predicted that Dubrovnik should be a destination for movies. And now we have the Game of Thrones. So the students pioneered these concepts, but it was them, they didn't believe that their ideas were good enough. So they let other people monetize them. And this happens a lot. You experiment, and you don't even value what you come up with. You ignore it, and someone else runs with that idea. So value what you're doing. So I also thought, you know how you were playing with the dots and lines? What does it feel like when you actually are doing things with your hands besides tapping buttons for your phone? When you're actually touching raw materials and creating things. So I was experimenting with different creative things, and I thought, wow, this needs to come into a class. And so I developed this class called Applied Creativity and Innovation in 2015. And here's an example of them. They had to get garbage, collect it for 2 weeks, bring it into class, and then I made them do storyboards, and then just isolate the shapes of these garbage, and then say how those shapes might influence the Zagreb airport. This is Kevin Carter. And Kevin Carter took this Pulitzer Prize-winning photo of a Somalia girl on her way to dying and the vulture who was waiting for her. So I know it's very serious, but sometimes you experiment And we take for granted all the photographs that we just snap every day senselessly. And I want them to then understand that the photograph tells a story every time they take it, so that it crystallizes that process. And here is just random pictures that they took. This girl took a picture of a bench, not particularly spectacular, until she redraws it and morphs it into something else like a Picasso. So the thing is, we have to value more of this play that we have going on. And this brings us to the brain workout. So the brain workout is something that I created in 2017 to get, because I can't reach enough people if I'm only teaching at a private university. So I started running through Impact Hubs these brain workouts so that everybody can get a chance to start using their brain. I know yoga and Pilates are all the rage, and people want to be active with their bodies, and they should. But what are they doing to activate their brain and break up the patterns that they're creating every day, thinking the same things along with the same people and not using their hands anymore? So this is what I do. I have created these brain workouts so that I take who's ever in the room and I figure out what they can do and what they haven't been doing, and we do it in a creative way. So this is experimentation. I hope that you will start to think about what if a little bit more. And these are some tips. I will keep them up, and now I think I have 5 minutes to wrap up what your activity is now. So let me give you some direction. Okay, I want you to group yourself in, I think we have to do it to 4 because we only have that much paper. Somebody has to be the team leader. Grab the large piece of paper and the scissors underneath you. Yes? And now you're going to use your dots and lines. Okay, just get, team leader gets the piece of paper and the scissors. Okay? And, see, everybody's excited to experiment. I'm glad about that. So, if you have more than 6 people, okay, you should be okay. Now what I want you to do is take your dots, your lines, your dots and lines, and I want you to assemble them into a thing. Yes? Yes? You got that? Yes? Yes? Okay, I'm coming over. I'm sorry I have ignored this part of the room. So, basically you are now taking this piece of paper, and you're going to take a combination of your dots and lines from your mini group, and you're going to create a thing that other people can recognize on this sheet of paper with your dots and lines. Yes? I don't know. Do you need the scissors? You can use the scissors. You can use your Post-it notes. You can use your pens.
Kartica już wasza powiedzenia.
I see those who are fully engaged, and I see those who are resistant. But that's not my problem, that's yours. And hopefully you'll get broken a little bit during the conference, that you'll open up, because you gotta try some things new, and they have to be uncomfortable sometimes. And you have to figure out how to recognize patterns. Yeah? And just be willing to go there. So, as a wrap-up, people, please know that all the gallery of things will be posted over here. So we need your artwork that you have created that is so beautiful. And I've seen some stunning things. Yes? It's going to go up here when you're done. So make sure you sign your name in your group so everybody has been part of this keynote. Okay? Everybody sign your name, and we're going to put them up here. So when you're done, move them to the front, and then I'm going to ask a volunteer to help me. Yes, thank you.
Kako se skuži? Hvala.
Alright folks, thank you so much. My time is up. I hope if you have not, if you have not already signed up for a brain workout, try. Maybe we can squeeze in a few more. And have a great time experimenting with your new friends. Bye.